If you felt something a little unsettling about the rise of AI, you're not alone. And it's probably not just about the technology itself. There's this deeper feeling, right, that the very ground beneath our ideas of work and even our own identity is shifting. So let's actually explore that feeling, because it's pointing to something way bigger than just the next tech trend.
This quote, this really gets right to the heart of it. The anxiety we're all feeling isn't just about the money. I mean, you can replace a job, you can find another paycheck, but what happens when your whole sense of self is built on what you do? Suddenly, AI starts to feel less like a helpful tool and more like, well, like an existential threat.
And that's the real question we have to ask ourselves, isn't it? When the very tasks that have defined you for years, maybe even decades, can suddenly be automated, what's left? What happens to your sense of who you are? This feeling, this mix of fear, anxiety, maybe even a little resentment, it's not just a logical response to a changing job market. It's what you could call an identity storm. It's that protective, emotional reaction that kicks in whenever our core concept of who we are feels like it's under attack.
And this storm is so intense because, let's be honest, modern life has basically trained us to believe a lie, that our value as a person is our productivity. Our worth is tied to our speed, our skills, our job title. So when AI comes along and does all of that better, faster, and cheaper, that whole story we've built our lives on just starts to crumble.
So, how do we navigate this without just panicking? Well, the key might be a really powerful reframe. What if we stop thinking of AI as a rival we have to compete with and start thinking of it as something we already know how to use and trust completely? Something like a new kind of subconscious, but for our entire civilization.
You can really see the difference here between these two ways of looking at it. The old story, the one that causes all the fear, frames AI as a rival we have to beat. But this new reframe sees AI as a subconscious layer that we can delegate things to. And suddenly, the opportunity isn't about competing anymore, it's about delegating.
Think about your own subconscious for a second. You don't consciously tell your heart to beat or your lungs to breathe. And after you've learned how to drive, you're not thinking about every little movement. The task is still happening, but your attention is now free. You don't see that as a loss of identity, right? No, you experience it as relief, as freedom. That's delegation.
So, how does this actually happen in the real world? It's not some dramatic moment where a robot walks in and literally takes your desk. It's a much more subtle process, and the mechanism is always the same. Your attention is the first thing to go.
Now, this is a really crucial point to understand. There are two replacements that happen. First, you replace parts of yourself. You start delegating tasks, right? You use AI to write that first draft, or summarize that long meeting, or build that spreadsheet, and it feels great. It feels helpful. But then the second replacement happens. The organization replaces you. They stop paying attention to that whole category of work you used to do, and they reorganize the company around that new reality. Your attention moved, and the job itself followed.
And this process, this quiet shift of our attention away from tasks we used to spend all our time on, it forces a really profound question on all of us. It's a question modern life has almost never made us ask, because our jobs have always given us the answer.
And here it is. This is the heart of it all. When you no longer have to spend your days on all those routine cognitive tasks, what's left? What truly deserves your focus, your attention? This is, without a doubt, the central human question of the AI era.
The answer to that huge question really comes down to one word: aim. Think about retirement. You know how some people retire and they just blossom? They dive into new hobbies, passions, curiosities. And then other people retire and they seem to collapse. They lose their sense of purpose. The difference isn't their intelligence or how much money they have. The difference is aim. Your aim is what determines whether this whole transition feels like you're dissolving into nothing or like you're finally being liberated.
So, if our old identity was the worker, defined by the tasks we did, what's the new, more stable identity in this new world? Well, it's about shifting from being the doer of tasks to becoming the attender, the one who consciously chooses what deserves our precious attention.
And here is the core principle that makes that new identity possible. It's so simple, but so powerful. Your life is not your tasks. The market can make your tasks worthless overnight, but it can't touch your soul. Unless, of course, you fused your soul to those tasks.
So the ultimate takeaway here is this. The best way to respond to AI isn't to try and defend our tasks. It's to choose our aim. Because in the end, the measure of a human life won't be the work we did.
It'll be the quality of the attention we gave to the things that truly mattered.